Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for another great video. Today we're going to be discussing Saint Helena Augusta, Constantine's mother. So this kind of all ties in everything that we were talking about before with Constantinople and Constantine converting to Christianity. Today we're going to be discussing Saint Helena's discovery of the three true pieces of the cross in Jerusalem. So and if you know, Saint Helena Augusta is Constantine's mother, who Constantine the Great founded Constantinople. But that's what we're going to be covering today. So come along with us as we cover her life a little bit, and then really what we're going to be talking about is her discovery of the three true pieces of the cross, their journey, what she discovered there, how she discovered it, and the pieces, or yeah, the journey that the pieces take over the years. So, yep, come along with us. Let's get it started. All right. So I guess if you would know from my other videos, I kind of did in my last video like a quick history on the church and what happened and how it kind of got established. And if you watch that video, you would know when Constantine the Great came to power, he converted to Christianity. He won the battle at the Mesoltian Bridge or something of that accord, and he won by seeing a sign of the cross, and he said, "By this sign you shall conquer." He beat the other emperor, and he converted to Christianity, and that kind of legitimized the entire religion at that point. So you had his mother, who was born to Helena Augusta. She was born like an innkeeper's daughter, and she at one point she caught the eye of Constantinus Chlorus, who was Constantine's father, who was an emperor himself, and they had a kid, but because of a political scandal, he divorced her and sent her away in exile until Constantine became the emperor and he won. He brought her back. He made her Augusta, and he put her on the coinage and kind of gave her free run of the entire treasury. Kind of what she said went. She had her palace built, Basilica de Santa in Jerusalem. That kind of, it got turned into a basilica, but it was her palace. Pieces of the cross ended up there. But so she was a pagan for most of her life, but she converted to Catholicism, or she converted to Christianity, and she was very devout, very devout. And she went on this pilgrimage when she was 80 years old, believe it or not. And she went to Jerusalem, the Holy Land. Now, when you think about Jesus and what happened to him, I kind of thought, like, after he died, it was kind of a big thing all of a sudden, and it took off very quickly. But that just certainly isn't true. And like we talked about in my last video, there were persecutions of Christians up until Constantine had the Edict of Milan, and that ended the persecution of Christians. But up until then, you had persecutions going on and executions, and Nero famously burnt them at dinner to light his torches to light the night. So at 330 AD, or after, I'm sorry, 0 AD, when Jesus Christ died and then was dead for 3 days and was born again and went up to heaven, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. The place where that all happened was filled in, and there was a temple built over it, which is like irony of preservation. Like they wanted to wipe it out so nobody would remember it, so let's build a temple on it right where it happened. But, so they kind of didn't get to erase it that way. We always know where it's at because they built it on top of that. So, but after he died, they filled that in, and after around 330 AD, when Constantine became the emperor and he converted, Saint Helena Augusta took the pilgrimage to Jerusalem and decided she was gonna dig it up. there's some stories about how she found out where this happened. So one of the stories is that the Judas, the elder, there was an elder. She also traveled with a retinue of guards and bishops and high officials. So when she came into town, it was some shit. But she found one of the elders named Judas, and in the nice story, he has a vision and he leads them where they need to the spot, and it's all nice. But in the not so nice version, he wasn't so forthcoming, so they decided to put him in a well for 7 days with no food until he decided he wanted to talk. And that's how they got the location. But She finds the location, she sees it, sees that a temple to Venus, a pagan temple, has been built on top of it, and she orders it sacked and razed to the ground, completely destroyed. Even the foundation, it all has to go. And even more so, the soil has to come up. And the soil, not only does it have to come up, it has to be removed and taken outside of the city somewhere else. That is desecrated soil. So when they're doing that, and then as they're digging and building it up, they come across a tomb, and it has a cutout. And I mean, it's a whole line of tombs. There's like 3 or 5 of them, but you see the cutout of it, and they assume this is the tomb where it happened. So they cut the other tombs away, and that's where they built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But also, as they were digging, they found a cistern that was unused, and whenever you have unused places, it becomes kind of a garbage heap, so people threw garbage in there. And it says in the Bible that the pieces of the cross were strewn and thrown aside into a hillside or something like that. But you have that, so they're digging, they find this well, and they start digging inside of there, and that's where this discovery is made. They find 3 different crosses. They find 3 different crosses, the Titulus, and the nails, and a couple nails. Well, whenever they have the pieces of the cross, it's kind of a question. It's like, whoa, how do we know which one it was Jesus's? So, and like everything else, it's history. History has a bunch, like they say, history is written by the victors, but not really. History is written by a bunch of little people. I mean, some people approve things, but some things do squeak out. But the story of this, so there's 2 stories. One of the stories is that there's a sick woman and a dying woman. Rufus or Orgonas brings this dying woman, and whenever she touches the cross, she is miraculously healed. Woo! That's the nice story. The not so nice version goes, well, they have the 3 crosses, they don't know what they're doing, so they set them out, and they bring 3 dead bodies, and they set them on them, and the one that is Jesus's brings the guy back to life. He literally comes back to life. So that's the other story about how that's found. She finds the crosses, the pieces of the cross, and she splits them into 3 pieces. Also, she has the nails. So the nails, they get taken. I think a piece is put into Constantine's horse's bridle. A piece is taken back to Rome, and it's at like one of the hospitals, the Santa di Luca Hospital or something like that, is where a piece of it's kept, or it's at Saint Helena's. I'm just going off the rip this video. But those are the nails. Those aren't really. We're here to talk about the pieces of the cross. You have the pieces of the cross, and they have 3 main pieces that it gets split into. One piece is kept in Jerusalem, one piece is sent to Constantinople, and another piece is sent to Rome. Ah. And well, the piece that's sent to Rome is still in Rome. It's sent to the Basilica di Santa, where her palace, and it's like built in with the foundation, or it's kept there for safekeeping. I think that's along with the nail, and the Titulus goes there too, and kind of gets lost and rediscovered. So that piece really has a lot of history. No history. It has history, obviously, but not as much as the other pieces. So the piece that went to Constantinople was, as we talked about, if you know, as we talked about in my last video, it was sacked in 1204, or well, it was in 1204. The Latin Empire, sacked the East Orthodox Empire, the Greek. They sacked the Greeks, and they took the piece of cross back with them to France. And then throughout the years, it was in they built a church. It's like sent to the Chapel of Saints. It's like the Sainti Chapelle, but it was burnt down during the French Revolution, and with it, a big piece of the cross, most of the cross. But what was left, the little pieces that were left, were then built into the Notre Dame Cathedral that stands today. But yeah, that brings us to the third and last piece, and kind of the interesting piece. That piece was kept in Jerusalem. It was encased in silver, and it was held in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre until 614 A.D. Khosrow II invades, sacks the city, and he gets the piece of the cross, and he takes it with him until 628, when Heraclius recaptures it. He reattains it, and there's like a huge triumph when it comes back to Constantinople, a great victory, obviously, how great. And it stays in Constantinople for a little bit until it is returned to Jerusalem, its home, home place where it belongs. Huh, you know. And then, but then years go by, obviously, time passes, and you have the first crusade, and I think it's the second or third crusade, where the crusaders take the piece of the cross, as a morale relic, something that they can all gather around, and they march into. They want to take further inland. I'm not exactly sure what their objective was, but they march further inland into Iran, into Persia, and they get annihilated, and that piece is seized by Saladin, who is a great tactician in his own right, a great conqueror. He seizes it, and the battle they seize it in is very sad, because they kind of just sit and harass them until they overwhelm them on a hill. But they get the piece, and it's never seen again. Despite all the attempts in the world to get it back, Saladin was never majorly defeated, I don't think. We'll fact check that. But even if he was, he refused to capitulate the piece of the cross, and it was last reported seen in Damascus all them years ago, and it has never been seen since. So literally, in today's day and age, there is a piece of the Jesus Christ's cross that is unaccounted for. We have no idea where it is, and it's like, wouldn't that be something you think that would be like a top priority of the church to kind of reclaim that? And somebody has to know where it's at, I'm sure. It's probably, I don't know. Who knows what happened to it? Hopefully it didn't get split up into a million pieces. Um, but that brings us, and all the other pieces of the cross, obviously a crucifix is pretty huge, so making it into three pieces, there were some leftovers, I guess you could say. And those were like split up and given all around. But it's to such a point today, and they make a joke that there are so many people own pieces of the cross, or so many places own pieces of the cross, that there's enough of it to build an entire boat. Kind of like the joke that like there's way too much and there shouldn't be that many. But yeah, there's a unaccounted for piece of the cross out in the world today. Is there still treasure out there? You think, like I thought growing up, like there is nothing more to discover. Everything's been discovered. Everything's been done. There's nothing more we can do. But there is. There's lost pieces of history we could reclaim. Istanbul, we could, remake that. Constantinople. No, just kidding. Just kidding. But and Saint Helena, for all of these things, was made into a saint. Helena Augusta, Constantine's mother. She was on the coinage at the time, and she had the whole entire treasury at her disposal. She built many churches as she went and traveled around. Obviously they built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, but all around everywhere they went, they built churches. So she was saint canonized for that into sainthood. An 80-year-old woman too at that. She really believed in Jesus and the story. And it's very interesting how moving that was, but it took a while to get around. It isn't like today where something happens and everybody hears about it. It's like this happened there, and then everybody went out and told everybody about it. And to become the most important man in the world, the most known man, the first printed book and the most printed book, Jesus Christ, JC the man, put it up for him. But those were the pieces of the cross that Saint Helena went and got and distributed, and subsequently what happened to them. The nails, they were, like I said, a piece was made into the horse bridle. A piece was taken to Constantinople, but then it was before this fall of Constantinople, it was taken to Rome, where it sits today in either in her palace or in the Santa Dilo Hospital thing. Oh, and Jerusalem. It's like Jerusalem, but with a G. That's where her palace is. It's kind of funny. I wonder if that was named after that, but that still stands today. And the Titulus that was around Jesus's neck was taken there, and then it was like lost forever until like 200 years ago or 100 years ago. It was rediscovered. They rediscovered a box with like the Latin words on it. And like, oh shit, this might be the Titulus. So Oh, and another thing I kind of wanted to cover is like the difference between relics and idols. So you have relics that are like the pieces of the cross, like Peter's handkerchief. There's a bunch. There not a bunch of them, but there's many of them that were pieces and like were pieces of what happened. And they're not. An idol is something that you idolize, like it's a thing that has a power within itself, and that is the power. Whereas the relics, we venerate them, and some people think they have healing powers, and they may have them, but we're not worshiping Peter's handkerchief because it's the god. That's the difference. Is the idol is the god that you worship. So as because there's like idolatry is bad, but relics I thought kind of came close to it, but there's a very different, significant difference between them. But yeah, that's the story of Saint Helena and her discovery of the true pieces of the cross. I kind of wanted to bring that story to you guys. I thought that was interesting, and it kind of ties everything together. It's relevant to all the topics we've been talking about, and I just thought you guys might want to hear it. So, if you haven't, please take a second. If you like the video, if you like the information I give, take a second and subscribe, like the video, give me a comment. Doing a different setup, trying something else because the sound is just getting kind of terrible. So we're trying something else here. Hopefully it's going better. But hopefully you guys enjoy it. But that's it. That's it for today. See ya.